There it is.
All right. This meeting is being live streamed. Good morning, everybody. Hello out there on YouTube land. Hello out there on Zoom. Nice to see a full participants list and a whole bunch of new names and some reoccurring names. I love it. Welcome back. Welcome for the first time. How's it going today, Michael?
Doing good. We are experiencing some cooler weather. And actually, soon I will be seeing you in person again, as well as another attendee in the list, Matt Lynn.
That's right. Matt and I get to go to Phoenix and hang out with Michael and maybe rearrange his plants a little bit, just enough to annoy him. No, we're going to be down there for an ATG Christmas party. So we're going to see what we can do to maybe do one of these in the same room. That would be weird. So we'll have to figure that out. But today is the last day of November. And today we're going to be talking about page labels and bookmarks. And maybe a little bit more on that topic. We touched about this a little bit last week when we did our turkey thing. So hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I would love to pull up the turkeys and show them off if nobody protests that. Show the turkeys real quick. Got to show you the winner that has been announced. I don't know if we did it on social media yet, but the winner it was tough to pick. I mean, I wasn't the judge. DJ
Neither was I.
But I probably would have picked the same one, but it was really tight. So let me pull up Bluebeam review. Okay, so I have the approval. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And we did that on sessions. Now, since I was the host of that session, I can get back to it. And here are our turkeys. So we had 8 contestants. We had, well, technically, we did allow Matt and Michael to do their turkeys, and they did great work. Matt's use of the little shading, that little sort of watercolor thing was pretty cool. It is tough. It is tough for sure. Had some good ones. Good use of color. Good use of the clip art skills. Beth here with a little highlighting on the hat. That was a nice touch. Of course, you know, the ATG mug. Come on now. That's great. And then we also had this one. And let's see. You are not on the call yet today for the artist of this one. But, man, this one had me giggling the whole time. Because not only did they do the hand thing, and you know, not too long ago I was digging out my Halloween or my Thanksgiving decorations, and like I'm seeing the handprint turkeys that my kids did, and this one got me right in the feels. But to also include some markups and little Bluebeam tricks, that's pretty great. But here's your winner, everybody. The use of the wallpaper and probably bourbon on the mug. I mean, it's perfect. And it's like standing on a tray or maybe even a pumpkin pie. The bright yellow and the little flowers. Like, I love this one. So kudos to the winner there.
The wallpaper solidified the win.
The wallpaper did it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there we go. Congratulations, Caitlin. Welcome back. You are the winner of our turkey challenge. Thanks for participating. Thank you for brightening our day and our week. And even as I look back at these, it cracks me up. You guys are awesome. Thank you for participating. And if you like this sort of thing, if you think we should do it again for Christmas, maybe on the December 21st episode, put in the chat, vote for it. What are you doing? So if you're interested, we could do that because these are fun and it is a good use of the skills. And maybe next time Michael will MC the thing while I'm drawing a snowman or a Santa or whatever else Christmas theme we might do. Interesting.
I am all up for MCing and talking through while everyone gets ready to do their own Christmas tree or snowman, or you know what, a house with Christmas lights.
Ooh, Christmas house
or a gingerbread house.
Gingerbread house. There it is. There we go. Non-denominational. Perfect. Gingerbread house contest, December 21st. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first. All right.
Let's do it.
Back on topic. I'm going to ask you to share because you're better at this than I am.
Sir.
So at the end of our turkey contest last week, we were talking about page labels and bookmarks. And we just briefly talked about this. And there was a couple things that Michael had brought up that I thought were worth exploring in more detail. And as I said, this is not something that I use a whole lot. I do a little bit, but not nearly to the level that Michael does. And he mentioned that there is there are options rather for doing what he's about to do. So creating page labels from bookmarks, but you also mentioned creating bookmarks from page labels.
Yes. So you could do the adverse. It really just comes down to what workflow you feel is best for you. I prefer not doing page labels first. I prefer that being taken place last because I'm going to get more out of bookmarks than I am out of page labels. Bookmarks can then also create, in terms of getting more out of it, I can export out my bookmarks as a tree or an index. So if I needed to create a page index, that also hyperlinks to all of my pages as well. I am going to use bookmarks more, and I can still go back and create my labels from my bookmarks as well. But for this instance here, for those of us that do have CAD or extreme version of Revu, you can automatically have bookmarks print out by your naming conventions of your sheets. That can be done under I should have opened Revit, but in Revit from your exporting or your plugin, you can go to the settings and you can say export bookmarks with it as well. And you can set up the settings that you want to have for it. But going into here, I'm thinking of I don't know about AutoCAD. Does AutoCAD do it for viewports?
I'm getting in there right now because you hit a touch point that I'm curious about. So I'm going to hop into AutoCAD and take a look at something, and I'll see what we can come up with.
If not, you still have some data here, right, that we can go through and create these bookmarks for. I'm going to do it from my title block location. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to not add a bookmark. You want to create bookmarks. You can add bookmarks manually. It's completely up to you. And I got a chat from this random thought. If you print from Revu to a PDF, can that create bookmarks in the same way? We can try that, but we're going to actually, let's do it before I create some new ones. So if we go print, this is a 36 by 24. And let's see. Print markup. Are there any advanced? This is just my vector data. Markups only. No bookmarks.
What you could go to advanced?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just vector data.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, looks like that does not allow that function. AutoCAD does allow the creation of bookmarks just using the PDF to DW or the DWG to PDF driver. You do not need CAD or Extreme for that.
Okay. So not from the print here. You do not need it for AutoCAD portion because it's having that. Is that what you were saying, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now going into here, you're going to create. Yes, not from CAD or Revit, but you can still create them quickly from in here, right? So if I'm going into here, I can create page labels. I can hit OK, and that can be from the naming of the pages, or I can go from a region. And what I'm going to do with my region here is I'm going to select specific data on how I want my pages to be named. And for this instance, I'm going to go through and actually select my numbers first because I want the bookmarks to be the number. Then, so that I did a full selection of the region. Let me redo that again. The reason why I'm doing a full selection is what if the number goes past my selection? So I want to be aware that I'm going the full distance, right? Because if I go short.
Question there, because it's just going to pick up the text. It doesn't care if you get that line beneath it, right?
Correct. Yep.
And then you're making it bigger. So if you do have like a page 1.1000, there'll be enough characters in there. Perfect.
Yeah, correct. Adding those caricatures for whatever may be added later on. Then I am going to have the first region. I'm going to do an underscore. Now, I learned the underscore from, I'm not going to take their credit myself, but another firm that was using Procore as their document management system, tying in with Revu. And how Procore works is it needs an underscore for the bookmarks to do something on the Procore end that I know nothing about. But the underscore was key. So be aware you can put caricatures to separate the number from the actual name of the page. It's completely up to you. And that's what I'm doing, underscore. And then I'm going to add a second region. You can even see your preview down here of what it's going to look like. So then I'm going to go to my top portion, which again, like we were saying, I wanted to add more. And maybe if there was some return, which I know there isn't, but just in case, because maybe you don't know how the sets are being done from other people, you can add more regions, but then it shows you an example. You can hit OK, and you can always come back and do the regions. Yeah, reselect it if you need to for an individual one. Page scale, it's going to fit the page. Actual width, depending on where it's going to change from in terms of size. What are our ranges? I'm going to do all pages. You can do custom. You can do current page. Custom meaning you've selected which pages you want to have. And there we go. And now I have this data here. And it actually did a sub one here. Oh, it's just because I'm on the page.
Does it understand titles that have multiple lines? It should.
Yes.
But since you have Revu, you can go edit that text. Do like a foundation and schedule plan or something. See if it will pick that up automatically.
So what we could do.
But you can't do a return in a single line text, can you?
Yeah. Well, it just depends on what the text is also for if it's not multi-line, correct. Yeah.
That's true.
But it will pick up if it is. I've done it for multi-line text in terms of title block data. For other ones that it will pick up. I don't have another full sheet here that has a different title block. It's happened to me a couple times where, there we go. Something like this, right?
Oh, okay, perfect, yeah.
Yeah. Back to here. So we'll do this. Underscore add this.
So yeah, it does pick up all that. So it's getting spaces though. So there's the sort of question I believe that Ed's alluding to, where you're doing the underscore to help Procore, because Procore doesn't apparently like spaces, but you're going to have a space between foundation and plan, and a space between district and center, so on and so forth. Would that cause a problem? Does anybody know Procore on here? Now, I've always been taught to do, Procore doesn't like a lot of things. I've heard that. I've also used GIS a lot in my days, and spaces and dashes are never allowed in GIS file formats. It always likes underscores. So that's what I'm used to. But if there's any other things besides Procore that like that, chime in. It's always helpful for us to let the best practices be known.
Yep. But again, sequencing from here, this would be a way to navigate our PDF sets. So let's say these sets have some things wrong with them, and they also have non-selectable sections, because natively in Revit, you can export out if they are combined PDFs, not separate PDFs. They will automatically get hyperlinks to their sections. And that's another thing you can also create, but you can create it in the standard version and CAD version, but you're going to want extreme because it's going to batch do them in terms of creating hyperlinks for specific pages. So you can jump to those pages, but then some folks also maybe don't prefer to click the section. They can always go up to here, right, and select which sheet they wanted to go to that's representative of that sheet.
That's such a cool trick, because that one comes up quite a bit, especially, I mean, you're dealing with a 9-page plan set, which isn't a huge deal, but on a real plan or a sizable project, you're talking hundreds of sheets and
combined
flipping
with
back
multiple,
and forth. Yeah,
disciplines. But always the lovely back button too, for those folks when we're wondering, well, great, I went to that page and I went and looked at that detail. Can I get back to that original page without having to click this all the way to that page, right? There is your redo. So previous view, you hit 1, probably 2, maybe too many, and it brings you directly back to where it was.
I'm totally guilty of not using that tool enough.
Yeah.
I do use it when I remember it, but I forget about it, and I need to get better at it. Because I'm a big Zoom previous person in AutoCAD, so you'd figure that Zoom previous and actually, what's the hotkey for that? If you hover back over there,
it is the Alt left.
I don't know how intuitive that is.
But it's great for when it helps me, at least. I use it a lot when I'm going through details, because I'll have it like this, and then I'll be doing something like this where I'll split the screen and I'll look at the details in this sheet set and not sync the view. So I'll have to go back and go view, not sync the detail, click back in this view, go back, and then
you freeze up. Uh-oh. Anyway, so while we wait for Michael to catch up,
I can see what I was trying to look at for that. Good.
Whoa. You locked up there, Michael. That was you.
So I prefer doing this when I'm looking at details, or if you have a second screen, right, you can drag them out. So if I'm looking at recreating a document set in Revit, which we do here, and that's something I do when I'm splitting details and looking at sections, stuff like that.
We got a great question from Ed, because I'm curious about this too. If some fool merges multiple PDF files into one, and half of them are full size and half of them are half size, does the region scale thing still work, or does it end up with missing links? Right? So it's still looking for certain coordinates.
It's a spot on the document.
Okay. So,
but yeah, if you change the region to do probably I would test actual size, is what I would test and see if it works. Now you can also upsize those PDFs back to what scale they should have been. And that is something under our thumbnails panel. You can right click in page setup and hit next, and you can bring back those pages to scale on what they should have been in the first place.
Now, how accurate is that? Because this is going to get a little tricky. Normally, coming from the CAD background, if it wasn't to scale or wasn't the right size, you got to go back to CAD, reprint it to the proper size. Are you telling me that if you scale this up properly, it would still work okay?
If it was a half size like that, I think you'd be fine. Test it as always, right?
Yeah.
Always recommend testing it, which is easy because you can just calibrate the document, right? And take a measurement. Did it work? It worked. Great. If not, then maybe we shouldn't do that way. But if it's a half size of an existing document, I think you should be fine.
Good trick. Maybe I'll put that on my list of things to test, because now I'm curious.
Alrighty. Let's actually run this. So I'm going to go back to here. Oh, I'll just keep that open. So this set, right, didn't have any of my hyperlinks, and we could do that as well. So instead of doing this workflow and doing a single one, which you can do, by the way, in any version of Revu, which isn't fun though, right? The time you're probably going to take to do this every single time is going to pay for itself on doing it in batch, which is the extreme version. And you can do new, and we can add this from open files. And actually, I could have also done this from my page labels, where it's going to look for those items, but I'm going to do search for just this bottom region because my page labels also have my name in it. Well, the name of the page is in it. And now I'm going to page region, and be aware with this batch linking feature, You can also change it so it includes an appearance. This is what I'm going to do just for us here so we can see what it did instead of me just hovering over with my mouse and where it's actually placed the new ones. And then you can say, is it case sensitive, whole word sensitive? What are you going to do? Great. I'm going to generate it. It's going to do all of these sheets. I'm going to hit run. It's going to create around 94 hyperlinks. And now when I go back up, right, I told it to put the squares around it. So then it shows me that there's new ones added. So anywhere on the page, it will give me the hyperlink to those pages. So if I click it, I'm going to be going to S2.2. And now I'm here on this page and I'm now looking at this sheet.
So it went and searched the text to find matching characters?
Yep. And then added a hyperlink to all of those.
That's pretty clever. So side note, and this is probably a question for the audience as well. I did a training last week or the week before about hyperlinks. And one of the questions was, well, these hyperlinks are great in Revu, but do they work anywhere else? Has anybody used hyperlinks? They don't have to be as fancy as this, but use hyperlinks and had them not work in Adobe or anything else? They do work,
Matt, I think in order to undo it, Matt was asking about unhyperlinking these. And sorry, I just interrupted you and what your thought process was. But I was answering the question, and the question was, can you undo it? You'd probably have to rewrite them because you can overwrite existing ones, Matt. I'm looking at the links here and I couldn't, the only thing you do is edit action. So you can come back through and overwrite. So generate, oops, let me get the region. There's this overwrite function here. Overwrite existing. So if you want to overwrite the ones that are here, you can. So if you wanted to not include appearance, you could.
Actually, can you go back into that link options?
Yep.
What's for style? You have solid. What else is there? At the bottom, dashed, underline, fill,
fill, probably instead of a line, right? 'Cause solid is a line.
Mm-hmm.
Could have done a fill or highlight. Would have probably been better. Oh, you can even flatten. What's what?
Undefined. Oh, underline.
Underline.
Right. There we go. That's a pretty cool trick. So you've recreated these, and Ed has a question. What if you did all these and one's wrong? Can you delete just one?
Yeah, so you can. So if you have links open, let me hit OK. Overlapping behavior, use relative paths, maintain existing. We'll just hit cancel. If you go to one here, you can click it and it'll show you where it is on the page, or you can click it here. I think it still highlights that one. Oh no, it wouldn't let me. So you can go to here, which is your links, and you can delete it and edit it. So you can delete the action, or you can edit the action, because right now it's saying where it's jumping to, which was those pages, right? It's creating that action, and you can change the page that it was supposed to go to. Or you can even, in this, you can take this a step further, but this is going to be a long process, which is hyperlinking this, right? So I'm selecting just that portion, 6, and I can say go to a place, and I can create my place, and I can name it detail. Well, I wouldn't say detail. I'm just going to say S2.1/6 because that's the detail number. And I'm going to go to a place. I'm going to get a rectangle, and then I'm going to go to S2.1 and look at detail number 6. So 2.1, detail number 6. Again, it's a longer workflow, but what this will do is once you click on the 6, it's going to bring you to this region here. Then I hit OK, then OK again, and go back. And there's my number 6. And now see how I have, because the original hyperlink feature that I created was different than the one that was the batch. Didn't highlight it, but my index finger is now showing when I hover over it right here. Now, when I click this, it brings me to the region of the page, which is
pretty
zoomed
cool.
in on 6, but you can't do that in batch.
No, but that's totally worth it, depending on the file size again, to make sure it's easy, because you might spend an hour or two doing that manually, but think about all the time you'll save for everybody who's looking at these plans, provided they know how to hover over the number and stuff. So that's pretty cool. All right.
But you still need to create regions, right? Because now when I go back,
or places.
Places. Thank you. For it to jump to, and you can always just name those places, and then you can just select where those places should be going to. So
there's places and there's spaces and there's all those sorts of things. Now, one of the questions that Doug had, is there any reason to use these bookmarks if you're using sets? And do they work with sets?
So I guess going into sets, it would be the question of where your page is named, because then you would use bookmarks to name them. That way, when you're creating your sets, you can have your sets separate out correctly. Because when you're going through and you're getting ready to create a new set, you have the options of how is it going to look at the data. So over here is how is it going to organize your sheets by file name and page labels, right? It doesn't have anything in terms of your bookmarks, but your page labels could have been created from your bookmarks there. In terms of how is it going to organize your sheet sets, right? Because usually they're broken out by this category system here. And these are what you have for your options.
Old National CAD standard.
And yeah, file name.
Pretty cool. All right, back to that question, because now David's asking a question that I want to know the answer to, because I don't know if this is going to work. So go back to your section bubble that you had there. That was on the previous page. There you go. That one. When you clicked on that 6, it jumped you to that view. Is there a way to set it so it opens up in another viewport or another window? Because that would be cool.
Asked before, yeah. And there's not that I know of.
Right, under edit action, there's no.
It would have to be like a new sheet, but then it would still, then you'd have to drag the sheet out, right?
Yeah.
So let me go and edit this action. Right, because it's not going.
No option.
Yeah, this is no current view. This is just.
Ooh, so Doug thinks if it was in a set, it would jump to another window. But you have to set. Oh, hang on. Now we're going down the rabbit hole. Thanks, Doug. You have to set your preferences to open in a new tab. So if this was in a set, right? So we're talking bookmarks and actions within a set. The rumor that we're hearing from Doug here is that this would open up in a new file if it were a set. Set options, open in place, open right there, open top one, open new tab in front. There you go. New tab in front would do it. So if that was in a set, meaning, the set doesn't have to be in the same actual PDF file, right? It can have multiple PDF files that are combined in a set. And if you had your links set up where that 6 was jumping to a different PDF file, it would open in a new tab. Okay. Neat.
That's
trick.
it. Open.
That might be a reason to use sets. Good call. Yeah, I think this is worth exploring some more.
And this is the same thing you use for opening up to a studio project file for creating dashboards. And in order to get this window here to open that out, or to open up to a PDF in your studio project, you have to have the setting open in preferences. Under studio, this needs to be unchecked.
Clever. There's lots of little rules and should do's and best practices when it comes to using sets and getting all that configured.
Yes, sets are always a work in progress, especially for when you're having multiple different firms send you PDFs, if it's in learning how to do that. I think we did uncovered sets at one point. Maybe we could revisit them, and it's proprietary to Bluebeam. It is a .bex file is the extension for that.
And that's the sort of piggybacking on my question earlier. What is and what isn't viewable other places? So sets, Bluebeam only.
And one
only.
thing, Yeah. And one thing, I was talking with another client the other day, and they wanted to see revisions not stacked behind a PDF. And what Sets does is it actually has a tab below to show you an older revision versus you going through and seeing the one right behind it, right? Or in front of it when you're using Slipsheet for older revisions. Because they still wanted to see them, but they wanted to see them in a tabular format. And Sets does that. It'll have a tabbed out view below it that you can go to the older set versus having to scroll through and see the older set unless you're directly trying to view the older set. So there's another great reason to have Sets too.
Yeah, I feel like that could be its own episode because there's so many little things that you should know and best practices that would be a good one to highlight. Put on the list.
But going back to bookmarks, so we've created our bookmarks. You can also, like we've talked about before, you can export out your bookmarks if you wanted to. You can make subtrees in your bookmarks as well. So they could hypothetically jump to different details as well within here so that you can click on the specific details underneath the page that they're on. That could be another option that you wanted to do. But going back into here, you have your ability to export out your bookmarks to an index or a tree, completely up to you. You have your settings that you have there. Is it going to create hyperlinks? Is it going to stamp the date? Is it going to stamp the time maybe? What type of format is this export going to look like in terms of a page size and also the layout? And it'll hit OK here. Where's it going to output to? I'm just going to hit save. And again, now I have all of my data here and I can click in. It's going to bring me to the sheet where it's at. I could save this, put it on the front page, or maybe if you had it in a set, like we were talking about earlier, you could have it there as well. And just having that ability to click through an index.
So that was my question. So 2 questions. First one is, let's go back and see what the tree looks like, because I'm curious between the difference between a tree and an index. And second of all, if I did want to take that index that you just created and put that on my cover sheet, how would you do that?
This is saved out by itself, so you can hit save as, right? Since I don't remember where I saved the location to, and then you can just add it to your front page by inserting the document. So I can hit save to a location, save to disk, save to my desktop here.
Gotcha.
Yep, and then I can come in and insert it if I wanted to.
Very cool. All right, go back and create that tree, please. I did.
Curious. It's here.
You did?
This is the tree.
The tree versus index. There's no difference visually?
The other one had
the pages on it?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I was expecting something a little bit more dramatic. Okay, so David has a question about the index thing. Instead of inserting it or resaving that PDF file and then reinserting that PDF, can you do a copy paste sequence? Would that work?
The only thing I'd worry about is the links, so we can open it.
Because that might do, well, you wouldn't do a snapshot, right? Just straight up copy the text.
You're saying copy page and insert page.
Copy paste the. Yeah. That would work, but like to actually have it embedded on the cover sheet somewhere. Ooh.
Oh.
Okay.
The links. I don't know how that. What if you cut the region? Maybe I don't know if it's going to
crop the page just down to that little piece. Maybe. Paste. Okay. We're getting closer. Once they're in there, find a little. You don't have much open space there, bud.
No, it's just an image.
So close. We're onto something there for a minute. If you flatten it, maybe. All right. Caitlin's got a really good question here. So what if we already have a sheet index on a sheet that's from Revit? Is there an easy way to make those bookmarked? And those typically might have symbol sheets as well. So it's very similar to what you did, but instead of choosing the section bubbles, you would actually choose off of the
and you can make them hyperlinks too, just by selecting the same data from your bookmarks, and they could create a hyperlink to them as well. And that's just by having whatever your bookmarks usually are named like this. And let's say these were already on the sheet. How could I click my index to have them jump to those sheets? You could just go through the same. If you have extreme, there's a little asterisk there. You can add your open files here. And then you can do this from your page labels that you've created from your bookmarks, which I'm going to show next how to create your page labels from here. And that'll generate them that way. But if I go to my thumbnails now I can create page labels from my bookmarks. And just like that, I hit OK, and it's gone through and named them that way.
A neat trick.
Doug was saying flatten these before moving them over. Well, let me save this out as. Flatten after I move it. Well,
oh, I see what you're saying.
So snip it and then flatten it, because I can bring it over like this, but can I copy this over?
Yeah, so he do a snapshot and then flatten it and then see if those links work. Denied. Flatten kills the links. Good test. It was totally worth testing. That's what we do here. That's what we love to do. Thanks for bringing it up. We'll try just about anything. So
what if I flatten it before?
There's got to be a way though. So now it's like almost, let's figure this out. Wasn't there a link in there?
I only want to do this page.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there we go.
So you flattened that page and the links still work.
Okay. I don't think this copy is going to be the way to go though, because this is just copying an image of the data. It's not copying any of the link data information.
So the other day I asked you a question on how do we do a viewport to a 3D PDF? Remember that? That was pretty cool. Would this work in a similar way?
I'm trying to insert. This is just going to bring that in. So if we went and did, that was under
edit PDF content. See, that's only 3D. Add and edit 3D. Yeah, it's still looking for that IFC file or that U3D.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way.
I was thinking of the insert method, but that's inserting a page into our thumbnails. It's not inserting a page into here.
Yeah. This one might be getting closer. Layered page. Now here's one that I've never messed with. Anybody else mess with this one? Layered pages. Because you could. What if you shrunk this page down to 3 inch by 5 inch or something like that, and layered it on top? This is logic saying that this would work that way. Added a page as a layer before, or is it like a layer, like an actual layer? Oh. Okay. Yeah, there it is. Still doesn't work.
Won't let me move it.
Bummer. So a layered page is just it's like an overlay, but it puts it on a layer that you can turn it on and off.
Mm-hmm.
That's not as magical as I thought it was going to be. It's still pretty useful. I can think of a few good uses for it, especially if you're talking about revisions, revision A versus a revision B, being able to toggle them on and off, and not using the overlay function exactly.
Yeah. The overlay function gives you the benefit of the different color association to it. But if you don't like that and you want to just have two different PDFs or another PDF on top, it could also be like a detail, or maybe design options could be another one that you have with like layers or something that you're just showing as a PDF format, right? That could be a useful case as well.
Cool.
Or maybe tracing your gingerbread house. Who knows?
I won't repeat that. I was going to repeat it, but no, we're just going to leave that little Easter egg hiding. Supposedly not Easter, Christmas egg. All right. So you've created page labels. You've created bookmarks. You created a page index in both treed and index version, and then you inserted that. What we might play with is how to get that embedded into a PDF. And I'm curious if anybody else wants to play around with that. If you come up with something, email us. I'm curious to see. Otherwise, maybe I'll go down the rabbit hole this afternoon and see if I can make that work. Another question that I had was, can we make the label on the sheet come from somewhere else? So like you have that S1.1. What if that was blanked out? And what if that came from another component? Can you insert text that's coming from somewhere else? Does that make sense?
So data from another point, it would be a stamp.
Okay.
Probably how you would do that. Yeah. So you would go and get a stamp and create a dynamic stamp of whatever dynamic options kind of meet your needs. So you could create a stamp and add text.
Because what brought this up was thinking about Sheet Set Manager in AutoCAD or Civil 3D, right? Where you have a set of plans, and let's say you need to change submittal date, something like that. Can you repopulate things and use it like a Sheet Set Manager where you have that common data like project number or project name or printed by or submittal date that you would have to reflect on all the changes at one time?
Yeah, you're limited to in here by this, and I'm guessing from here, right? This is what you would have unless you know some JavaScripting.
Nope. I'm not a JavaScript person. Where's Liz?
Yeah.
We need her for that. But also on my list of things to learn.
Footer, yeah. The footer thing, though, you're limited by footer and header. So those are the locations. My thought process with the stamp is that it can be placed wherever.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then you could use Extreme to batch stamp it and boom, 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 all the page labels.
Yeah.
Potentially. Next review session, we can play with that. We haven't. So, side note, we haven't figured out our topics for the next coming weeks other than the 21st. So, if you've got suggestions, type them into the chat, put them in at the survey at the end of this. We will absolutely take those to heart because we like coming up with stuff that you guys want to participate and listen to. So,
in JavaScript,
next session.
Yeah, I was going to say it had to be punted down the line there until we learn it. So unfortunately,
there's some good tricks there, but eventually.
Yeah. Okay. Now, other items in terms of going through and exporting that data. So we were able to go through, create our bookmarks, and not on that sheet set, but this one. And then again, remember, we can go through and add any other sub ones. So if you wanted to add before or after, let's just give an example of this because I talked a little bit about it. We could create one that's a bookmark specific to this detail. So you can go through and you can add something after, like a child below, and then you can name it. And then you can edit that action. So I can say S2.1/1. right? So then you're creating these and you can go through and create the action that goes to the place, and you can create your new place, and you could go and do it this way. So that when you click on that, I should name this properly, but I'm just doing this quickly, hit okay. Now, when you're here, you can click on this sub one that's going to bring you there, right? So you can start making these out after you've created them as additional items and kind of make your detail sheets look a little bit more accessible, or do the section way as well. It's up to you.
Was that in response to Marvin's question?
No, that was just me going through.
Marvin has a question. Notice in trying to create page labels that they would not work if the pages were dependent or sub page of the main page. It had to be its own main page.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Okay. He was saying in terms of these, that's correct. It would be the hierarchy of those pages is how it would be named. Now it's pulling that data. It's not going to name these individually for what they were. The child of the bookmarks. All righty. Any other questions about bookmarks?
Not seeing anything in the chat, but I'm curious, and I don't have a plan set queued up, but I'm curious to see how they come over from AutoCAD if you did choose that create bookmarks option, because they should just come over with the layout name. So it would say layout one, layout two.
Is it the layout name or is it the sheet name on how you're going to name them? Which I guess is sometimes how you name your sheets anyways from the layout, right?
Right. And then you said in Revit, there's an option to export as well using the CAD or Extreme plugin.
Let me boot up Revit here.
See you, David.
Thanks,
have a
David.
good day. Ooh, great question, Chris. Perfect. So while Michael has his Revit loading, Chris has a question. Can you insert bookmarks? Because we can export them, right? We can do things with them.
I don't know. Never done that.
If you can export, why couldn't you import? Why would you export?
Export would be the index, right?
Oh, okay. That's all that is. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that would be nice if you did have you spent all this time creating these bookmarks in this plan, but something comes up, you got to do a whole new set. You don't want to have to redo them. Hence, well, I mean, Slipsheet would fix some of that too, but that's a different story.
So you can create pre-structured ones like this to help you recreate them.
Okay. That's almost like
like there's another
though.
Yeah, there's like another issue. If you're creating these structures, what's, for an instance, structural firm, right? What type of numbering are they doing? That's maybe not conventional or conventional. But within Revit, let me open this one. Under add-ins, you will then see your options for your design. And then, as my computer's doing like 5 things at once, here we go. I have the ability to go through and change settings for when you're going to click create PDF when you're ready, but you have bookmarks here. And what is it going to create your bookmarks from? So this is the project name and drawing, or just from the drawing itself. So whatever view it is. So for our views, it would be the sheet name, because the sheet name is the view name. Well, I guess the adverse, because your sheet name can be different from your view name, but whatever the naming of that sheet name is what it would pull off of. And then you can include page numbers, file extensions, any sheet prefixes if you wanted to as well. But you're going to select which sheets you're going to print out from your selection here. Or views, for instance, if you didn't want sheets. Same thing for exporting spaces. So rooms is what Revit has, and Revu sees rooms as spaces.
Pretty cool trick. Now I just did test the AutoCAD one, and I had it set create bookmarks from that PDF, and all it did was it took the layout name.
Okay. So you'd have to make sure your layout naming convention is precise because of that reason.
Exactly. Because otherwise it wouldn't, I mean, if you've got multiple tabs in a drawing file, as you should, depending on the workflow, it will take all those layout names. So if you did layout 1, layout 2, layout 3, that's what your bookmarks are going to read.
Okay.
Another question from Chris. If I have a drawing set that has bookmarks and I want to add it into another set. So that's getting tricky on the word sets there, though.
I think he just means overall PDF set. He wants to create the same structure from an existing PDF set to another PDF set. Let's see, create from. No. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. I don't know if that's possible. I do know that there are some bookmarks that can get transferred, like when you're creating new PDFs. It's like, hey, do you want to bring over bookmarks? So there are some of those questions in Windows. So be aware of those windows when you're clicking through them. But I don't know how you could grab an existing set like this one that doesn't have those and then say, maybe create bookmarks. This is just from page labels. Yeah, you could add them, but it's just going to add them from here, right? I'm not adding from my structure, but you can add these from structured ones already and then say which pages to jump to. But that's these pre-created structures that you could go through and manage and create a new one if you wanted.
Okay.
And maybe that is your existing one, right? From a file. So you just go and select your file and then you create one. There's also XML file format. So we can go and let's modify this. You can see what they have here. But then from here, right, you would add what this is, and we'll just add structural here. And now you have your structural sets, and then you can go down and add which sheets you wanted.
Okay, I got another question. If you take this file, so you've created all your bookmarks, created all your page labels, if you take that and put it into a session, will all the links work?
It would have to be combined set, I'm guessing.
Well, maybe not the set, but like the file. If you went back to your Samtech file where you've created all those beautiful labels, if you save that to a session, would they work? Because I doubt, that's another question. Can you do links if they're in a session? Probably not, right? Because there's so many things that you can't do in a session to an overall plan set. Maybe that's another one for a revisit, the limitations of sessions, as much as we love them. Oh.
I already had one in there.
Always experimenting. The fun of morning coffee review. All right. So you uploaded that one. There's your index file. And you're in that file, and it looks like everything works.
Yep. But you cannot create them from in here.
All right. So if you're creating bookmarks or page labels, it has to be done before you take it over to your session. And there's another question from Chris. If you send this out to another user who does not have Bluebeam, will they see the same info? And I asked this question a little bit earlier, and I got some confirmation that the link part will work in other things like Adobe, but I can't promise it's going to work for everything because there's so many PDF viewers these days. Chrome will do it, Safari.
Yeah, the index will work. The bookmarks, that is up to, does the software have a bookmarks location? And the data will be filled in there. So Revu follows the ISO standard for coding PDFs. So the International Standard Organization, and majority of the softwares do follow that. Now, the kind of hiccup you're going to encounter with other softwares is that Revu organizes these types of things in panels, right? Or like the markups list, which is still a panel. But does the other software have that type of data to be distributed and displayed somewhere? That's the question.
Tricky.
Yep. Or they can download a free version of Revu and still see bookmarks, by the way.
What? I didn't know you could do that in viewer mode.
Mm-hmm.
Clever.
You just can't mark up, right? You can't create them.
Right. You still utilize them. And I know that's kind of a hassle. People are like, well, I don't want to have somebody download software just to view my plans. But, I mean, don't you want to improve their quality of life by bringing Bluebeam into their lives? Because ever since I started using Bluebeam, Revu, I should say, it has really changed what I thought was capable.
Yep. I agree. Well, we have about 3 minutes left here. Do we have any other questions? And as always, if you do have any recommendations for future topics, please put them in the end. You will get a survey that we always read, by the way. So feel free to leave us some comments on how we're doing, how you're liking the series. We're not at a year yet. In March, we'll be at a year of doing the morning coffee reviews. But we appreciate all of you that always attend. And for those new folks, we hope to see you around as well. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for you all joining and contributing to every session. So just want to let everyone know that we appreciate them. And we will definitely be doing something creative in December. Is that right, Jason?
Oh yeah, I've been taking down notes, so that topic list is getting filled out a little bit, but we still will always welcome things for coming into the new year, and hopefully we make that 1 year anniversary episode, because that's going to be something special for sure. But there's still so much about Bluebeam Review that we can talk about, and we've learned a lot ourselves. We do this for a living. We train, we work with it, and we're always learning new things. So if we did go back and revisit a topic like headers and footers that we did a few months ago, I guarantee there's going to be something new that we've learned since then. And if we've got different attendees, either from YouTube land or from Zoom, who have got different experiences, we love to share that, because again, this all stems down to the community. And I'm loving seeing the chat between different people here on Zoom chatting with themselves and showing off that community. And we're starting to see that community grow on LinkedIn. And, it's fantastic. It really makes this little experiment of ours really rewarding. So.
I agree.
And of course, we got to thank ATG, and thank you, DJ, CJ, and the whole marketing team that really makes this work out well, because without them, we don't know what buttons to hit. So big thanks to them.
I agree.
And with that, well, if there's no other questions, we'll just wrap up a couple minutes early and give you back your Tuesday. Sorry, it is another full week, but we'll get through it. We'll see you next week on Tuesday. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, DJ, CJ. Thanks, Bluebeam community. See ya.
Thank you.